So I got a million questions for you. I'm going to start with some curveballs because you've been asked a lot of the same stuff, I think, probably all day and yesterday and the day before. If someone has never seen anything you've directed before, what is the first thing you'd like them watching and why?
Ooh. Uh, of what I've made?
Yep.
Uh, I guess any of my movies, I'd be happy for that. Any of them. But yeah, Foe is very special to me because it kind of brings all of my filmmaking qualities. You know, I have done commercials for like 20 years and done a lot of kind of fictional elements, creative elements. And this movie kind of has all that humanity, but there are some sci-fi elements and a bit of genre. And so I guess this is the full spectrum of my filmmaking capabilities in Foe.
Right. You can, true or false, you decided to direct Foe because you got to create a futuristic car.
No, false. False.
I'm totally messing with you.
Utterly false.
Right. I'm joking. Although that must have been cool. Either way, to get to create something. Yeah. Anyway, which of your films actually changed the most in the editing room in ways you didn't expect?
Oh God, I think all of them have. I guess with Foe, it was the most interesting one because I can never experience this movie as a first-time viewer, you know, because I know it. So I guess the thing is that I couldn't fully understand is what it's like for a first-time viewer dealing with all of the mysteries and the questions that are there for, you know, nearly half the movie. So I guess from the editing point of view, it was really about calibration and having to put it in front of someone that knows nothing about anything and kind of tracking their understanding of what we think they're understanding. So this was probably the most unique editing experience I've ever had in that regard, if that makes sense.
Well, the other thing about Foe specifically in the edit is that, I mean, I watched the movie and as soon as it was over, I'm like, oh my God, this would be a completely different movie when I rewatch it. So can you sort of talk about that aspect that you are there's a lot of stuff you're revealing, and it's about when and where you choose to reveal information. And the fact is, the second time you watch it, it's going to be a completely different film.
Yeah, I mean, it is two movies in one, and that's not an easy thing to pull off. But that was the thing that really excited us. I guess we had to really think about we have to be truthful because if you watch it the second time, it won't feel real, if that makes sense. So we had to really make sure that all the choices we're making were truthful, but then we had to kind of hide the truth through our choices. So that would be through performance and where we put the camera and point of view. I guess all of that was what really excited us. And that's what I meant in terms of the editing. It was like trying to calibrate how much we reveal of the real story versus the one we think is happening. And not only that, the actors themselves are emotionally going through a multitude of different truths and different ideas as well. So, yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. It's like an Escher. You know, everywhere you look at it, there's another perspective, I guess.
Yeah. What was it, though, about this material that said, I have to do this? I'm going to spend the next 2-3 years of my life making it. You know, what pulls you in?
I mean, it was the heart of the story, and that's Hen. And how she wants to live her life and be herself and find her agency. And I think Hen for me represents somebody that appreciates that life is short and it's precious, and she wants to not deny that part of herself. And I guess that's something that's how I see the world, and I love what she fights for, and I believe in that. And I feel like we're all a little bit asleep at the wheel in society, and you know, Hen's telling us to wake up and to kind of take note. And that's why I loved it.
Well, one of the things also is that it takes place primarily in one location, and it's so different than what you've done before. Was it nice to have such a contained piece? And what was that like as a director working in such a contained environment?
Oh man, you nailed it. I love it. It was like a dream come true to make my actors become the landscapes, my action movie. I mean, just going deep into performance and nuance and mystery and all of those things, that was super exciting to me. But the material was great because there was a lot of complexity that we could explore in subtle ways. So I guess it was the right material to do it. And I loved it. I loved that challenge. It actually inspired me immensely.
You obviously, this whole movie rides on the three performances. So when did you know that this was going to be something that these guys were going to be great? Because they're all great actors, but you really don't know the chemistry until you're all together.
Exactly. I think it was. I was completely fine with the very human. I was very confident with all of the human moments, but I guess the moments that were more complex, where there's lots of secret rivers playing through the scene, I think that was the stuff that I was most anxious about. So I think it wasn't until we were in rehearsal and we were rehearsing one of those key scenes where we kind of found the musicality of the scene and how much people were revealing, how much people weren't, and just feeling that out together. And then when we found that, I felt really excited about where this was going to go. But it wasn't until then that it felt like it was all going to work. Does that make sense?
100%. Did you ever do any scenes, because you are revealing information as you go in certain scenes? Did you ever end up having like someone do a little bit more in one scene of like more of a reveal or more of a playing it a certain way in case you needed that in the edit?
As long as it was truthful. So for instance, if one character was revealing a truth while the other one's looking at them, clearly the other actor would have to say in a real moment, what are you doing? So I guess to a point, yes. But I think it was more about coverage and point of view. So, when someone's backs to someone, then you've got all this availability to kind of explore a secret, I guess. So yes, we had to make sure that we had the first viewing and the second viewing, I guess, covered in the most exciting way going into the edit.
What do you think soon-to-be fans of this film would be surprised to learn about the making of the film?
That it was shot in Australia, maybe. That's a pretty surprising thing. I don't know. I've got no idea. I have to leave that up to them.
Sure. How long did you actually have to shoot the movie? How many days did you have, to actually make it? Do you remember?
I don't fully remember. It was pretty standard. It was a pretty standard shoot, whatever that is.
Oh, sure. So you didn't feel like oh my God, we have to make 5 pages today.
No. There was definitely some ambitious moments, but it was a good schedule. And there was definitely 3 or 4 days that weren't fitting in the schedule that we had to somehow absorb. So you choose your battles. You choose the scenes where you want the time, and there's some scenes where you're shooting them in 20 minutes. You just are, and you kind of have to make sure the preparation's in place to achieve those moments, like any filmmaker. But no, it wasn't. It didn't feel like I was under crazy duress, even though there's always that pressure.
How do you typically like to direct on set? And what do you do when you're not getting exactly what you want? Are you one that gives like a slight little, like just a little like this? Or how do you like to craft a performance on set?
I mean, I do whatever I can to get it. And every situation will change, I guess. I mean, it's fairly cliched, but I don't want to give them the result of what I'm looking for. I'm more interested in witnessing choices. So I guess it's really together. I would take the actor separately out of the space if I have that opportunity to talk privately. Maybe adjust one so it affects the other. I mean, all those usual directorial things. Music. Sometimes I use music. Depends on the actor, the style of actor. Like some actors don't want any of that inspiration. They just want to have a conversation, where some people really thrive off being shown an image, for example, to inspire a scene or a small conversation or a note. So yeah, there's not one thing. It's a myriad of things, but I guess my driving principle is to again just try and witness a choice I'm not going to expect. That makes sense.
From friends and family screenings or test screenings, wherever you showed it to, what were the things that you learned that you didn't expect that you needed to now go in and adjust the movie because they told you stuff you're like, oh, fuck, how did I not see this?
Yeah, look, the challenge here is that there's some audience members that get things a lot quicker than others. And which one do you serve? Because for the intelligent, the ones that can kind of get something straight away, because that's the way their brains are wired, you don't want to be too obvious because they get frustrated. And then if you're not obvious enough, then there's half the audience that don't get it. So I guess we just had to decide what was the deal breaker, and I guess that reveal scene, it had to be clear to every single person in that audience what's going on. It just had to be. Otherwise, the last third of the movie would be impossible to watch. So I guess that was the scene that we were most critically testing with the myriad of audiences to make sure that 99.9% would get it, if that makes sense. So, and it was totally different to what I thought it had to be to achieve that.
The beginning of the film has text on screen, sort of setting you up to the world. How much did you debate what text to say on that screen, and did it change along the way?
There was never going to be text on the screen. But when we were doing some tests, we underestimated how much the audience was working. They were kind of in this world they didn't know, and when he was talking about space, they thought, "What are we in the future?" So there were all of these questions that the audience was having to kind of understand and consume, and it was kind of almost taking all of their energy away from the story itself and the one that we wanted them to be watching. So by simply adding the title at the front, just gave this enticing sense of context that actually just took away some of those mysteries and allowed people to be really engaged in what is still very ambiguous and mysterious. It was really fascinating. Rather than going in and re-editing all the scenes, just by adding a tiny bit of context at the beginning, created this completely exciting relationship with the film.
Yeah, I really wonder what it would have been like for me seeing it without that text, because I saw it with text. So that's actually, I'm wondering about that. Anyway.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, there's two things that happen. Yeah, two very different things.
I'm so curious with this film. Was there something else you thought about directing since your last movie, or was this the thing that you'd sort of gravitated towards? I'm just curious about if there was something else you came close on.
Well, I was actually flirting with Tron 3. I was kind of getting in the weeds on that. But I guess Foe was something that, as an artist and as a human being, I was very, very excited about. So it was something that I felt passionate about. And once I find something I want to do, I just kind of stay on it until it's done. I
am a huge fan of Tron, and I'm trying to imagine your version of Tron 3 right now.
How does it look?
Well, I think the main thing is that getting to design in that world must be very enticing, because it's visually like nothing else, and although I guess Tron 3 takes more place in the real world, but whatever, you still get to design cool shit.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, look, there's a big part of me that loves that stuff. And, I've just got to find, it just has to be character driven for me to want to fully engage with it. But I'm a big fan of, of those movies. So yeah, I've just got, when I find the right one, I'll be giving it a go.
What are you thinking about for the future? Is there scripts that you're working on right now, or things you're thinking about?
There's nothing I can talk about, but there's definitely a limited series that I'm developing, and an original idea that I'm putting some ideas around, a slightly bigger canvas original idea. But it's a slow process finding something that, as you say, you're going to spend years of your life on. So, and it needs to kind of affect me and give me that fire in the belly. Otherwise, I'm not doing it.
Well, one of the things about series, I mean, I'm not sure if it's the same with you, but I'm watching more and more television now because you get to spend so much more time with characters, and the budgets on series can be pretty expensive nowadays.
Yeah, I guess, Top of the Lake, I really enjoyed doing because it was very filmic. I guess what I have an allergy to is the kind of formulaic nature of television. It's almost, the formula is kind of birthing the creative choices. And I think I find that a little frustrating. I like it when TV feels more like a novel and it's very purist and exciting. And I feel like there's so much, I mean, it is being done, but there's so much room for limited television to be pushing the form so much more than it is. And so I do think it's an exciting space, and it is a different story to tell. It's a novel, and you can go with that character for an episode, that one, and you can drive forward in a really exciting way that you can't in a movie. So yeah, if it's brave and exciting, then I'm in.
on that note, I need to stop with you. I'm just going to say I am a big fan of your work, and I really do appreciate getting some time with you today. If there's ever anything I can do on Collider to help, please let me know.
You're a gentleman. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Have a fantastic day. Thank you so much.